Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to keep moving forward with our conversation with Jeff to talk about a little bit about the Bridgedeck protection. And today, Jeff is going to talk about the history, the philosophy, and the treatments that are available. Jeff, thank you very much for your time this morning. You can move from now.
Yeah, it's a small audience, but I guarantee I'll do my best to, give you knowledge and entertain you as well.
Great.
Okay, the whole presentation is designed to basically show how we got to where we are and how we fit in marketing today in the bridge preservation industry. On December 15th, 1967, the Silver Street Bridge, which carries US 35 over the Ohio River between Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Galapagos, Ohio, collapsed during rush hour traffic, killing 46 people. That was a big event, and that's what kicked off everything. As a result of that, on April 27th, 1971, the National Bridge Inspection Standards, NBIS, regulation was enacted by Congress, and Federal Highway has been involved in this ever since. It's interesting, before this period of time, bridge owners were responsible for maintaining their own bridges, but that changed after this collapse. This was not it didn't change, but it changed that they had accountability and things that they needed to do on a national level. This was not only the inception of FHWA Bridge Inspection Program, it was the dawn of bridge maintenance nationwide. So let's take a look at the Silver Street Bridge. This is a profile of the bridge, and if you look at this over here, it's a suspension bridge. It's got towers. What's very interesting and strange about this bridge is they're using a truss to support the deck slab. The problem with this bridge, and they're going to get into this in a moment, is that the tension to support the roadway underneath was all on this bottom cord. And what happens is that these hangers supported these locations at the panel points of the truss. So if you lost one member on the bottom, the bridge was unstable, and that's exactly what happened. So what happened was that the bridge failed by fatigue fracture. And this is similar detail to what it looked like out there. I saw a picture of it. I couldn't come up with the exact detail. This is an eye bar. It's a single plate. So once one of these plates fails, and you have two of them over here, but once they fail, the whole bridge can go. And a lot of other trusses are similar to the one on the right. They're composed of built-up members. And the good part about this is, even though they have no redundancy, and I'll talk about redundancy in a second, but they have internal redundancy. Internal redundancy is that once every plate has to crack individually, and it gives you time to make to do something to prevent it from collapse. Matter of fact, there's a bridge across the Mississippi River that almost collapsed 2 years ago because it has similar detail like this. This is the rivets. This is rivet head. I could go into how that's installed, but we haven't got time for that. This is the Silver Street Bridge before it collapsed. You can see that the suspension bridge. And when I talk about non-redundant, all has to happen is one side of this bridge, either the truss or the cables fails, and the whole bridge is in jeopardy. And that's exactly what happened. This is the collapse that occurred. It was complete collapse. And it obviously, when one span failed, the towers failed because of the eccentric load. And you can see the tower, there's no tower element shown over here at all. And that's what it looked like in the water. And that's what happened to some of those people. This one was probably a death because the car is crushed. This really horrified people, and that's why bridges became, this whole program got launched. Now, Mario asked me to add this, and this on August, because it was our most recent significant collapse. On August 1st, 2007, the IW Bridge over the Mississippi River in downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota, which opened in 1967, collapsed during rush hour traffic, killing 13 people and injuring 145 others. The National Transportation Safety Board, which is the guys that investigate this stuff, investigated the collapse and determined that crucial gusset plates connecting the bridge members were undersized and failed. A contributing factor was the nearly 300 tons of construction material stockpiled on the deck before renovations. And that it itself overloaded the bridge. The collapse sent shock waves through the DOTs across the nation. I was the state structures maintenance engineer at the time. My bridge inspection engineer spent the next 3 months about 80% of his time just answering questions regarding the safety of our bridges. It was a overall public panic. As a result of the collapse, FHWA and AASHTO sponsored several NCHRP projects to refine gusset plate design and load rating analysis, and many new regulations were implemented for the field inspection of gusset plates. What's a gusset plate? This is a gusset plate right here. This plate right in the center is the gusset plate. It connects where all the members get connected. The truth of the matter is that this bridge was designed, and the plate, even on the old design criteria, was half as thick as it needed to be. And they had a bunch of them on the bridge. One of them went, the whole bridge collapsed. This is also another truss bridge. This is a deck truss. But it really wouldn't, if that gusset plate hadn't failed, the bridge would still be standing today. And it was a design error. So this is what it looked like after the collapse. And you can see all these cars that rode it down. These are the lucky people because they probably lived. They may have had a concussion, but they lived. And the collapse was a little bit slower. I saw a film, I couldn't find it again, where it was a much slower collapse probably than what happened on Silver Street, on the Silver Bridge. This is at the supports. This is a very dangerous area. You can see the truss is basically, destroyed. There's cars down here. This is the luckiest people or person on the whole collapse. They didn't go, but they must have been terrified. Okay, let's talk about what came out of this, the National Bridge Inventory ratings. And this basically was not the first iteration that came out, but ultimately, and it's been this way for decades, this is what it looks like now. And there's also ones that we talk about component we actually use elements, which is components of bridges, which are done more for repairs. But this is the overall global look of what we do with bridges and how this helps us manage them. The National Bridge Inventory ratings are determined at the time the bridge is inspected. It changes every time it's inspected if things change. For most bridge inspections are performed on 2 to 4 year intervals. Most FHWA requires 2 year intervals, but if you have a justification, you go to 4. NBI ratings are defined as follows per FHWA. Over here, it's easy to look at up at the top. NBI 9, 8, and 7 in good condition. NBI 6 and 5 are fair. And NBI 4 or less are poor condition. So what does that mean? This is a better definition of exactly what that means. And I'm not going to go through them all, but 9 is excellent condition. That's a new bridge. When you get down to 6 and 5, you have satisfactory fair condition. It's still not bad bridges, but they get some issues developing. And then we get the 4, it's in poor condition. What does that mean? It's deteriorating very fast. And of course, you go all the way down to 0, it's failed. So there are NBI ratings for each of the following bridge elements: deck slab, superstructure, they just call it deck, substructure, and channel. Superstructure is the framing system. That would be the truss in which you looked at those other bridges. It could be girders. Substructures are the foundations, and channel if you have them. The lowest NBI element rating determines the overall NBI rating of the bridge. The condition of the NBI rating of the bridge deck affects the condition NBI rating of the bridge's superstructure and substructure. Why is that? As the roof of the bridge, the deck slab protects and preserves the condition of other bridge elements below it. So this is a asphalt covered bridge deck. I tried to get one with just bare concrete, but it just didn't show up that well. So you can see what's happening over here. There's a lot of cracks, and you got some spalls going in the roadway over here. Sorry, a lot of cracks, spalls on the roadway over here. And I guarantee if you take off this slab, and it probably has been to take off the asphalt, you'd find the slab is in poor condition. It's probably at least a partial deck replacement, which I'm going to talk about later. Could be a full deck replacement. So they didn't maintain this one very well. And if you don't maintain it all, it goes all the way through the deck slab, and this is what it looks like on the bottom. And this is where the rebar is losing section due to corrosion. This deck slab needs to be replaced. And the superstructure, could be from a joint, but it's obviously going through the deck because you can see the stalactites where, efflorescence is bleeding through over here. So all that water coming through the joints in the deck are causing problems. This is basically a nearly failed membrane. I'm not going to say it's completely failed because you have the it's able to take moment, but the shear areas are gone, and it might bridge this a little bit, but you're really in bad shape here. And the only reason that this may be out there and it might not be causing significant problems is that it's probably a girder bridge, and because it's redundant, it's got some load sharing, but it's lost capacity, and something needs to be done on this bridge very soon. This is the bridge deck concrete substructure corrosion, and it could be caused partially by the leaking joints or leaking deck, but I think it's more or less splash from the icing chemicals and road salts and splashing up over there. And obviously, bridge deck can help with that too. So let's talk about bridge funding, worst to first concept, which is the way it was when I joined this business a long time ago. Uses available funding to rehabilitate or replace bridges in the worst condition, lowest overall NBI rating. Under this concept, little or no funding is provided to maintain and preserve other bridges. Not funding bridge preservation and maintenance accelerates bridge deterioration, lowers NBI ratings and bridge condition, shortens the service life of bridges, and expands funding shortfalls. So what's the solution to this? The solution is to fund shortfalls. Funding shortfalls is to fund bridge maintenance and preservation activities, keep bridges in good condition longer. It's very inexpensive to do. A small slice of your budget will ultimately make things better because over time, you're going to have less bridges falling into the type of conditions we've been looking at. So what's a rational bridge funding approach that is practiced by some states? First of all, FHW requires less than 10% of a DOT's bridge decked area to be in poor condition, which is NBI 4 or less. And they do it by bridge area. We obviously look at the NBIs on a bridge by bridge basis for making decisions, but FHW is looking globally at this. And if a state can't achieve that, FHWA can choose to direct the spending of federal funding, which no state wants to do, and states can do it more efficiently themselves anyway. When a bridge reaches an NBI of 5, some DOTs increase funding to prevent the bridge from moving from fair to poor condition. Florida DOT, who I used to work for, we used to do that. Bridges often get scheduled for replacement with an NBI of 4, and life cycle cost analysis shows that it's cheaper to replace the bridge than rehabilitate. I got a slide coming up that I'm going to explain that a little bit more. Proactive funding budgets routine and preventative maintenance to keep bridges in the highest condition state possible. Impediments to rational bridge funding are typically political. Politicians, why do you want to spend money on good bridges? I mean, then you have to go explain to them what's going on. Like maintain a car example. You have a car and you don't change the oil, the engine's going to go. And it's cheaper to put the oil in to replace your engine. It's cheaper sometimes to replace the engine than to replace the car. So basically, once you give the proper rationale, we've been able to convince our politicians to support the bridge maintenance and preventative maintenance operations. So life cycle cost analysis is very complicated. I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. DOT's transportation asset management plans require life cycle cost analysis to compare the cost of maintaining a bridge against the cost of replacement over time. These cost comparisons are made as follows, and this is a very complicated financial analysis. Its present worth is typically the one that's done, and it's usually done by people that have got a business background. I was exposed to this in college, but today it'd be very difficult for me to do it because I've never done it. But it's determining when the total cost of a bridge replacement equals the cost of maintaining a bridge and present worth to determine when the bridge should be replaced. In other words, when the maintenance costs, if you replace a bridge down the road at a certain particular time, the maintenance costs could start exceeding the bridge replacement. So a bridge replacement cost. So what you do is you determine at some point you're spending as much money over time as it would to replace a bridge. It costs more money up front, but long term you're spending less money. That's when you replace the bridge. I hope you understand that. I can talk about this more if you need to. There's another way of doing this. It's called annual worth. It's doing the above analysis at an annual cost comparison. It's not as good, and most states don't do it this way. We use present worth because knowing what time to replace the bridge when it becomes the most economically feasible to do it is more effective than comparing annual costs. Note, It would not be cost effective to perform life cycle cost analysis to compare the cost of deck treatments for each project. It costs too much money to do, and it's obvious to most people that maintaining your deck basically over time just costs less money. What's the purpose of bridge preservation? To extend the service life of bridges, maintain bridge condition at the highest NBI possible for the longest period of time, and reduce the cost of repairs, extend the intervals of time needed between costly bridge repairs, and reduce user costs to the public. What's user costs? User costs are when the public sits in traffic for maintenance, rehabilitation, bridge replacement operations, and they get frustrated and it costs them time. They're idling away gas. They're not using the time effectively. And DOTs really pay attention to this. They like to reduce the cost to the public to the extent that a lot of DOTs use what they call A+B bidding, which means if a contractor goes out and actually gets a bridge open to traffic and meets a certain deadline before the contract is due, they get a bonus. And that's the way that you get contractors to work hard. They pay them money. They love that. And it helps us overall too. Well, it helps the states overall too. FHW and AASHTO have been advocating bridge preservation for decades. It's really only heated up in the last 15 years or so, though. FHWA requires DOTs to develop a transportation master management plan. I mentioned that earlier, which describes how highways and bridge assets will be maintained and funded. AASHTO TSP2 regional partnerships were conceived to help both DOTs share information, promote research and good practices, and help optimize and execute bridge preservation. And what are these national regional bridge partnerships? You've been to these probably. It's the Northeast Bridge Northeast Bridge Preservation Partnership, Southeast Bridge, Midwest Bridge, and Western Bridge. I was a founding member, by the way, of the Southeast Bridge Preservation Partnership. At that time, we sat around a table and discussed what we wanted this program to look like, and it's advanced a lot since then. So let's talk about bridge preservation over here. Once a deck reaches an NBI of, I don't want to talk about really what happens with decks. Once a deck reaches an NBI of 4, in poor condition, is a candidate for full or partial deck replacement. It doesn't mean it's going to collapse, but it means that more work that has to be done than just, using a deck treatment. A partial deck replacement involves the removal and replacement of the top half of the deck slab concrete and usually the top layer of the deck reinforcement. A full depth replacement involves replacement of the entire deck slab concrete and reinforcement. DOT practitioners know the best way to maintain the deck is in pristine condition. Is the best possible way to go. That's the way you need to do it. Maintain the best condition possible. So I just pull up this picture to kind of show you what's going on. This is the bridge deck over here. A partial deck replacement would be that you would take and you'd go down maybe the middle of the slab, you'd remove the concrete, the top of the top reinforcement, put it down, and you'd pour it back. You might not have to replace the barrier. You might, it's obviously a lot cheaper than going to a full deck replacement. We have to go to forms. It takes longer. The barrier has to be recast. So even a partial deck replacement is better than a full deck replacement. The good news is that once they go and they replace the top of the deck or the full deck replacement, it is a candidate for our product. And that's what smart DOTs do, is they try to extend the service life of their decks. So let's talk about bridge deck preservation. Typical cycle for a bridge deck. An unprotected bridge deck begins to absorb water and contaminates chlorides and de-icing chemicals in its pores and surface cracks soon after construction. The pores are the air entrainment that is designed and put in, and they put in more air entrainment the farther you go north, and it allows the water that's concrete continues to hydrate through its entire life and service life, and it puts water. It has excess water which goes into the pores, and when it freezes, it doesn't cause any cracking. Our product works well, by the way, because it can be displaced by this water, so it doesn't impede this process. It's a very important process for extending bridge deck life as well. Once water and contaminants reach the unprotected reinforcing steel, the steel begins to rust. Steel needs air, water, and contaminants to initiate and sustain the corrosion process. Guess what? Our product goes, and if it stops contaminants, it will stop contaminants and water from entering the top of the deck slab. It doesn't, and you can put it on the bottom of the deck slab, which will help too. So basically what we're doing is we're arresting the corrosion process by using our product, which extends the service life of the bridge. Steel needs air, water, and contaminants to initiate and sustain corrosion. If you're missing any of that, you don't have corrosion. The rust swells and pushes outward, causing the deck slabs to crack, which allows more water and contaminants to enter the bridge, into the concrete matrix, which accelerates the corrosion process. And that's when you're getting into partial deck and full deck replacements. So bridge deck preservation products. The best way to maintain the overall health of a bridge is to maintain its bridge joints and deck slabs. Deck slabs are actually worse than bridge deck, but bridge deck covers a lot more area, and they both have to be maintained. Notable bridge deck protection products and systems. And what I was doing is I was reading this report, which is what I came up with the specification, which I can show you afterwards, which I sent to, which Kirsten reviewed, made some potential positive changes to, which was given to Idaho. But it was all based upon this 1982 NCHRP report 244, concrete sealers for protection of bridge structures. By the way, NetPep is getting involved, and they started this evaluation for concrete sealers for pre-qualification, and they're claiming that 12 states have already said they're not going to use products that don't meet those requirements. So I guess Mario's getting into that. I heard you. Yeah, you are, right, Mario?
We likely are, yes.
Yes,
right.
Okay. But the products that were evaluated in this report 244 were, and I highlight the ones in bold, the ones that are really still out there: methyl methacrylate, silane, epoxy overlays, and bridge deck membranes. I also have listed these methyl silicate solution, siloxane, and sodium silicate solution. And we're going to discuss that on the next page. They sound a lot like our product, and I wanted to see what was going on there, because I know they're not popular. The 244 report results for sodium silicate. Sodium silicate is a protective coating. Tests from the report 244 evaluating the effect of sodium silicate solutions on the resistance of concrete to de-icer chemicals were not encouraging. So that product really never really went anywhere. The penetrants based on, they talk about various different penetrants, and they mention methyl siliconate solution, siloxane, and sodium silicate solutions, which are on the previous page, provide little to no protection against water absorption and chloride intrusion into concrete. So they're not working like ours. Ours are blocking water and contaminants. Silica gel is made from silicon dioxide, a component of sand. Sodium silicate is sand, caustic soda, and water made in a steam reactor. So it's not the same product. And if anybody tells you silica gel is not the same as product as sodium silicate, which is one that sounds most like our product, but is different. I provided this earlier. I'm not going to go through all this in great detail, but basically what it shows is the service life advertised for products and how long they really lasted. If you look at this, you can see 15 years for methacrylate and epoxy overlays. Actually, methacrylate thinks they can last longer than they go up to 40 years, but practically we're replacing it over here. Our products last 15, 20, and 25 years. And we're so confident about it, we're willing to back it up. We're willing to put our money where our mouth is. Also, waterproofing agent seals cracks better than any other product. Actually, methacrylate could seal larger cracks. I know it can. But the problem with methacrylate, it takes a lot more effort to put it down, but it's a small batch product, and we used it a lot in construction. I think that's really where that product excels, because you can mix up a small batch, and you want to seal up a crack in construction, you can go out there and do that. Where, when you use our product, you're getting ready to do a whole deck. So all these products have their strengths, and we're going to talk about them a little bit more. Comparing Bridgedeck with methyl methacrylate. Methyl methacrylate costs more than Bridgedeck. It does not seal future cracks, and it has a short service life, increases the time and cost of installation and traffic control, but it has its place. It's basically, I think, a construction product more than anything else. Comparing Alchemco Bridgedeck with silane. Silane costs less than Bridgedeck, but it does not last as long and only seals hairline cracks. Because silane needs to be replaced every 5 years, the labor cost for replacement and traffic control makes it significantly more expensive. Silane still has a place. I mean, it's good on vertical surfaces. It doesn't last that long, but you can go out there and you see some cracks, you can just place some of it. You know what I mean? So it'll buy you a little bit more time to do something better. So it still has a place in this business. Comparing Alchemco Bridgedeck with epoxy overlays. Epoxy overlays are significantly more expensive to purchase, and the curing time makes it not feasible for larger scale maintenance operations due to traffic control and user costs. Epoxy overlays, here's the key, can be used in conjunction with methacrylate, silane, or silicate gel, which starts working once the epoxy overlay fails. Now, people may choose to go out and just use the epoxy overlay, but they're a lot better off using, say, our product, because you have to wait for the overlay to fail, which we know it lasts about 20 years, could last longer. But when it starts to leak, that's when the deck treatment underneath will work. So if you say if it lasts 20 years and you have our waterproofing agent, which is our Cadillac product, lasts 25 years, you got 45 years of service life without having to do much maintenance at all for Bridgedeck. Bridgedeck membranes used in conjunction with asphalt overlays. It increases the time for water and contaminants to permeate the Bridgedeck slab. Acts a lot like the epoxy overlay, and it protects the slab until the membranes fail, and they can be used in conjunction with methacrylate, silane, or silicate gel, which starts working once the membrane fails. And you can kind of make the case that our product works better than these others, cheaper and lasts as long as the others. Methacrylate's the only one I think that could lay claim to longer service life. Comparing service life of Alchemco Bridgedeck with other products, not only does Bridgedeck meet or exceed the service life of these other products, Alchemco is willing to back up its service life predictions with a limited warranty. We're willing to put our money where our mouth is because we're so that confident about it. Bottom line, for most situations, Alchemco Bridgedeck is the most competitive, longest lasting product on the market for Bridgedeck maintenance preservation. And I went through this very fast because it was long. I talked fast. I hope it was clear. And are there any
absolutely, that was great, Jeff. And I think it helps a lot for us to be able to see these last couple of slides when you do the comparison between other systems and our material. I think this is great because it helps us to present our technology properly when we're talking with the DOTs. So let me see if we have any questions. Let's see here.
It couldn't have been that great. You must have some questions.
I think in the end of the day, I always think it's great to learn these steps and these sort of not steps, these comparisons. David, do you have a question?
Well, I just thought it was a good presentation. Appreciate the info. I know that at least the Iowa folks, they seem to like the middle product, Bridgedeck Protect and Plus, at least at this point, and it's been approved, but it's been a little more of a challenge to try and convince each respective district within Iowa. Now that we've got it approved, it hopefully will get there. But I just wanted to see what your, are those the best points to bring up to either the state DOT or the various districts in any given state?
Yeah, I think that basically, first of all, I want to say Iowa DOT. I know Jim Nelson, who's their state bridge engineer, real well, and they are a first-class agency. And getting approval for them is a big thing. And I advised Mario yesterday when I reviewed it, if we can get hold of those test results, that can be also a marketing point. But since they've already put it on there, basically it's an APL. It's the maintenance, I forget what that stands for, but approved products list of evaluation, which is the same as an APL or QPL. So now they're on a list with everybody else. So what do? I think the part of the presentation I talk about where you go and you talk about the service life and how long ours lasts and how inexpensive it is to put down, and the fact that we're willing to back it up with hard cash if it doesn't achieve it. I think all of that really is what you want to do. It's basically is they save a lot of time and they have less road closures, less cost to the user, to the user cost to the public. That's, I think, the sales point for this. Does that make sense to you?
It absolutely does. And I can tell you that during the bridges that we've done with them, this last bridge this year, they were absolutely laser focused on trying to get this bridge done in 1 day of shutdown. So we were able to get that done. We had, good enough weather conditions, but they were laser focused on that. And I think if we can accomplish that by whatever means in the future, certainly on a modest bridge, maybe not the largest bridges, but a modest bridge, that will be a huge selling point for them.
Yeah. Let me show you something over here. I'll drag it over to the screen. You can still can you still see my screen?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can.
sir.
Yes.
Okay. We put this out and basically Idaho DOT used it. I wrote it up but basically and Kirsten reviewed it. And that NCHRP report that basically we talked about, that 244 that was done in 1982. This is the testing requirements, the general testing requirements that Florida DOT wanted. And I talked to their guys about what was important to them. And so I also added something in here, which also had Southern climate and Northern climate series evaluation. Once you have this done, you can present that to them. And I know that we're working on that right now. Are we, Mario, getting this done?
Yes, I don't know where we are, but I know that we that's on the plan to do that.
Yeah. So at any rate, basically, this is something that would be very helpful because we're meeting the requirements where a lot of these other test products that we use, the methacrylate, the silence, had to pass muster to basically become a preferred product. And we're once we do this, we can claim the same thing. Plus, Florida DOT told me as soon as we get this done, we provided to them, they're gonna work on putting it on the QPL. So the idea is that, but there's other things that you can do. You got a state that basically, wants to try the product. They want to try it, but they're reluctant to getting them on, on the QPL. It takes time. It's a very long process. You can provide this specification. You can say, hey, this specification can be turned into, I hate that one, doesn't it? It can be turned into a technical special provision or a special provision, and you can use that directly. Now they have to choose to use it, but that helps you until it goes on the QPL or the APL. That makes sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you all have a copy of this, don't you?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, we can send that to you. I think we sent to all the reps, but this is the new Bridgedeck specs. So this is available.
You have to be careful about using this until the testing is done now. But
Okay.
that would be nice if we can get the Iowa testing done to us, because we know what they've tested. We can show we passed these tests.
Mm-hmm.
And even talking about like what happened for the Miami test, where you have that video where it kind of shows that the water doesn't leak at all. It's leaking the next slab like a sieve. You put down it was a different product, but it's similar. It stopped leaking. And one thing that really is very powerful, right? I don't know where we are in this process, Mario, but those cores that we're taking in New Jersey, showing what the condition of and that was corrosion block, which is an earlier product. But if it's still there and working, you can say, this is our earlier product and it's still working. And and the newer products just last longer. And that's a powerful sales point too.
Yep. Absolutely.
People want to spend money. They don't want to spend the minimal amount of time and effort and money putting it down, and they want it to be effective. That's all they care about in the bridge industry.
Great. I see a question here from Daniel. You mentioned shortfalls earlier. What are shortfalls again?
Shortfalls in funding. Basically, when you have a bunch of bad bridges, you're waiting to find. A lot of states don't use much more than federal. Some of them only use federal funding, and they got to use their funding to replace bridges or rehabilitate bridges. and they're putting up with bad bridges that they have to keep patching. And so how do you get out of the cycle? You get out of the cycle by taking and putting a little bit of money in bridge preservation on your newer bridges, so that over time you end up with less bridges in bad condition. It takes a long time, but people should be planning for the future, for the next generations taking over. For me, I'm 68 years old. It's not going to be me doing this, but some of you younger folks might see an advantage, over a period of time. You would if you're in the business long enough, you live long enough.
All right, great. Do we have any other questions?
No.
All right.
I got a question. So the people that missed this, you're going to make this available to them so they can see it?
Yeah, so we always send the YouTube link. It's a unlisted link. We always send the recording to them. So Christine, that's the support. She does that after the meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It basically I had to rush through this. I practiced it last night and I went 40 minutes and I said I got to talk a lot faster.
It was great, Jeff.
Half an hour.
It was great.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks. Have a good
By
day.
the way, you're probably not going to have one of these next week, right?
Let me check. Are you available
Yeah,
next week? Would you be available?
I'd be available, but I'm right at the hours right now,
Yeah.
and you might want to, for my new contract.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
might want to put that off until first week of January.
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one is going to be talking about using Bridgedeck products, over a period of time and managing the Bridgedecks to keep them pristine life longer by subsequent applications and a rational approach for doing that. So that
Okay.
one's going to be a good one too. So
All right.
All right, Mario. So
Yeah.
I'll be sending you the email trying to where I'll justify this possibly being a presentation or regional partnership. And I guess I'm pretty much done for the for this month, but I want everybody to have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and enjoy your families and friends, and particularly if you got little kids, because they grow up. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Good. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.